Hey everyone, Doug the Retirement Guy. We have a new video for you on the 6 high yield portfolio that is great for retirement. We've been working on this for the past few months now, kind of put it into testing to make sure that these things are going to work. We actually started this with a couple of our Patreon supporters who are asking, can you help us build a portfolio? And we did, and we put it through some stress tests and we've checked things out. And we believe that we have probably the 6 best funds for everyone to work with when you're planning on retirement. So we're going to show you that here. Before we get into that, I got to say a shout out to all of the new subscribers. Welcome to the channel. And also all of our Patreon supporters for helping us and keeping this thing alive. And if you're a YouTube member, if you want to just join through the YouTube member group, welcome to all that. We have quite a few people who have done that as well. So let's get into today's video. Notice to all viewers, past performance does not guarantee future results. This is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not considered financial investment or financial investment advice. These are just suggestions and examples. Always consult a licensed financial advisor or professional before making any financial decisions. So what makes a great portfolio? What is it that we're really trying to do, especially in retirement? And what we basically laid out was we want strong yields to cover your needs, because our goal of this is to live off of the dividends, to live off of what it is, not doing a 4% reduction, not taking money out of the fund to live off of. We want 100% live off of our dividends. We want a lack of NAV decay as much as possible. Okay, so if we want to gamble a little bit and worry about NAV decay, we're allowed to take a little bit of freedom on that, but pretty much eliminate as much as we can. We want the growth of the dividend and the value. So we want our cake and eat it too. We want the dividends to grow, and we also want the value of the fund to grow. And the reason for that is that we want to be able to cover any inflation or any emergencies or anything else that needs to go on that we can handle. So when we're living off dividends, retirement, enjoying life, but we still want a little bit extra value. And this is a big change for a lot of retirees. When you go to financial guys, all they want to do is grow your funds, but they don't want to talk about dividends because they don't get paid to do that. So the next one is we want a very balanced approach. We don't want to just put it all in the one item or one category. We want to balance it out so that we don't have to worry about it, because we want to set it and forget it. We want to just put it in place, check it every so often, and just forget about the process. So that's why we put this and say we want this full balanced approach. This is what's going to make a great portfolio work, and this is how it's going to come effect. So I always like to do this. This is what I call retirement portfolio slice. You take your pie and you slice out different sections and work in those different areas. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. I see so many people out there on YouTube and different people I talk to is they put them all into one. I'm just putting everything into, ULTY. I'm putting it all in the YMAX. I'm putting in these high yield, high risk categories to retire from. Well, if that works for them, more power to them. I'm not that way. We don't build things that way. We want to spread things out. So what we have done with our pie, we've put it into technologies, because I believe still technology is going to be a huge thing down the road with the AI coming into place. Plus, this world lives on technology. So it's still going to always be there. The next thing is utilities. We want to be in the utilities. You cannot live in this world if you can't flip a switch on and get light. You can't live in this world if you can't have in the south air conditioning and heat in the winter up north. Okay, so you're always going to need utilities. No matter what happens, you're going to need utilities. Finance. Finance is just huge. The world runs on finance. So why would you not want to be into that? Then we want to make sure we're covering the Russell 2000, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. So those are going to be ETFs that we're going to deal into. We're going to dive into these things to make sure we have these 6 categories covered at all costs with stuff that will produce the best. So what types of dividends are there and what are we looking for? Well, there's weekly pays out there and they are great. You know, we've talked to them about on the channel all the time. They are great. You get the cash more often. You can do more things with it. The problem that we have is they don't have enough history yet. So we can't put a lot of weekly pays or look at weekly pays who are paying a higher dividend. We can't look at those because we don't know what they're going to do long term. So we're kind of hesitant in doing anything with the weekly pays. Now there's monthly pays. Now this is a minimum, as it's easy to budget. It's easier to plan your funds. It's easier to plan everything through it, and you get your cash on a regular basis. So this is the minimum that we have to have into every one of the portfolios. If we can find some weeklies that have some good development and showing some strengths, we'll use them. But I want to classify that we want everything into monthlies. And because we look at the next one is quarterlies. Now quarterlies are common out there, and they were the first dividends really to come into play. But they're really designed for single stocks and they're harder to budget because now you have to figure out, well, in 3 months from now, I'm going to get a check for X. And it's hard to plan out when you got to make payments to every month to if it's a car loan, if it's the electric bill, if it's a Wi-Fi bill, if it's whatever bill you have, it's normally coming to you monthly. So quarterly is just kind of outdated and worn out. So this is where we kind of put things into play, what we want to use, how we want to use it, and accordingly. So let's show you the very first fund that we're going to get into. So let's take our first one. The first one is going to be Magy, the Round Hill Magnificent 7 Covered Call ETF. The reason for this one, this is kind of in our technology classification. This gives you a year-to-date return so far of 7.31%. So even in the good times, bad times that we've had, this thing has just continued to climb and continues to recover from any negative drop, and it recovers immediately. So when we look at the dividend income, this thing pays out 30.64%, which is basically 1.44%, excuse me, not percent, but $1.44 per share per month. And the bonus is it pays weekly. Okay, so you're really getting about 36 to 37 cents per week on a regular basis, giving you that $1.44 for the month. And when we look at the dividend chart, this thing blows you away. Look at the flatness of it. This is what we love in these portfolios. This is what we love in any dividend paying fund, is I like to see that flat line. I like to see that thing just paying out on a regular basis, day in, day out, week in, week out, or month in, month out. Just paying that standard dividend so we can plan accordingly. So when we take a look at this, we got a combined ratio of 30.64% for the dividend yield and a 7.31 for the NAV growth for a 37.95% total return. Now, a lot of people will question, why don't you just put all this money in there and get 30%? Why worry about anything? One and done. This is the problem. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. This is why you want to spread things out equally. So Magy fits very well. Let me show you a little bit more about Magy behind the curtain, exactly what it's built on. And Magy right here, the allocations. Now, again, remember, this is an ETF. So 8% of the fund is done in technology. Then they go into 5% of communication services and then consumer discretionaries. But why am I talking that when other is 81%? Because of an ETF with covered calls, any outlying money, any money that they have sitting on the sidelines goes into government T-bills, bonds, and so on to continue to generate income. So they're acting almost like you and I would be. If you have money sitting on the side, you don't just let it sit and do nothing with it. You try to collect some basic interest, and that's what they do here as they're doing their covered calls and their call strategies across the board. And who are they primarily dealing with? Well, it's the Mag 7, it's the Tesla, it's the Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, Amazon, Google. So big names. And most of those right there, AI. Most of those tie into exactly what we're looking for is the AI approach, which is going to be the big thing. And look at this. How many of you use every one of these almost every single day? So it's a very huge, very strong, very large market. Very safe, bet in an ETF. Number 2, UTG, Reeves Utility Income Fund. Now, most of you probably never heard of this one. Well, look at the growth rate right now. The year-to-date return is 19.22% in growth. This thing has just been rocketing. The dividend pays out 6.36%. Now, I know that's low when we call high yield stuff, which is normally 8% or higher. But when we look at this one, it pays 20 cents per share per month. And look at that line. They just did an increase to get you the 20 cents. But this thing has run from July of 2021 all the way till July of 2025, flatlined at 19 cents. It just pays out, just on a smooth, regular basis. That's the unique piece with the utility income fund, that you can count on this money on a regular basis. It combines that 6.35 dividend income with a 19.22% dividend growth, or excuse me, not a dividend growth, but a NAV growth for a 25.58 total return. So we have this one to give us some nice, natural, full-blown growth, but pays us a good 6% dividend across the board. So it gives us that mixture that we're looking for. So it gives us maybe a little bit of space that we can gamble on a higher return and not have to worry about getting the actual growth out of it. So now the question is, how do they do this? Well, take a look at what these guys are invested in. And this one is really what we took the time and had to educate people and say, really get into this. But this is what they call defensive utilities. As I talked to you earlier, these things, everybody has to have utilities. Okay, no matter what. If you are a hospital, if you are a homeowner, everybody use utilities. And that's why these guys set this up and builds accordingly. What goes with utilities? Well, you got to have energy to create utilities. And what did they do? They're into energy. 11% is into energy. Communication services, they find that out. They need that part of it, 14% into that. And then they get into the real estate. So they're not just 100% electric companies. They are around the board of a little bit of real estate, a little bit of communications, some energy, and to get into the industries. Take a look at their portfolio, their weight that they've done. And this is the other one I wanted to show everybody and share. Look at when they first bought the funds. So Talen Energy Corporation, they bought back in 2023. So almost 2 years already that they've owned this. Okay, look at all these companies that they have and the weight per, so they're very well balanced across the board. And they've bought this stuff 2, 3, 4, many years down the road, 5 years on Xcel Energy. And then you look at NiSource. NiSource, they're right now over 13 years that they've owned that fund. So it's one of these things is they don't do a lot of turnover. I think the report I got from them was less than 50% turnover on their portfolio. But these top ones that they invest in and get regular money out of are always there. So it's a very, very steady play. This is why we see the steady growth. There's just steady cash coming in on a regular basis for growth of the fund, and they pay out a nice, decent dividend. So our third fund is going to be BTCI, and that is the NEOS Bitcoin High Income ETF. Now, Bitcoin is going to be here long haul. I mean, you're taking the US dollar, you're taking Bitcoin as the alternative to it. So it has been accepted. So many places are starting to advertise we accept Bitcoin for payment. It's going to be the new, I won't say new money wise, but it's going to be part of the money category. So we might as well get into it now before it's too late. Because you look at the BTCI at 22.91% total return for the first 11 months of their year, 24.92% dividend. They are cranking out the dividends on this because the ETF is selling those covered calls. They're working in that market. They can pay out these huge dividends. And this is only based off of 11 months. So they pay $1.45 per share per month. And you look at the chart down below, it is right there. The high point of $1.60, and the low point of $1.30. So you could easily balance this thing out and say, hey, $1.30 is the flat point. Maybe it's $1.40 to be exact. But now you count on that and say $1.40 each and every month, and that line would be completely flat. That's what you're looking for. This is what pays the big dollars. So when you take a look at the combo of the 24.92, the dividend yield plus the 22% growth, we're talking a total return of 47.83%. It's very, very hard, very tough to beat this type of a platform. And NEOS does such a great job with all of their ETFs that they are averaging and getting a nice balance between the two. Now, how do these guys do it? Well, they're investing into VanEck Bitcoin ETF. And with doing that, they're able to buy, sell all different things inside that Bitcoin ETF and selling covered calls and options off of all that. Doing a great job across the board. So they're focused, and they're focused on one thing and one thing only. So number 4, SPYI. This is NEOS S&P 500. Now there's a lot of choices for high income S&P 500s, and you'll see a lot of people use different ones primarily because they're trying to use different funds to get different people's interests. This was built for people who we know and trust what goes on. This is an older fund, so it's been out there for a while. Year to date, it's up 1.12%. Is that great? No. But I'll tell you what, we're back down to, I call the bottom, and rocketing. We'll finish the year out strong, especially with the interest rates coming down. The S&P will rocket. You've seen that on just this week alone. So this is just going to continue to climb. But are we always concerned about growth? No, we're concerned about income. 11.86%. It's the highest S&P 500 high income ETF that we have found so far. If you find a higher one, let us know. We'll definitely look at it. This one pays about 50 cents per share per month. And again, looking at that chart, it's pretty been steady. There's a couple of spikes, couple minor drop, but overall, pretty steady right at that 50-cent range. This in combinations at 11.89% with a 1.2% growth. That's a 13.12% total return. Now, how do they do this? Look what they've done. They've almost copied a lot of things that we've talked about, but 33% in the technology. And yeah, they're using that Magnificent 7, but they don't all just pour into that one. They also do the Berkshire Hathaway. They also do a lot of banking because they got financials, consumer discretionary, healthcare, communications. It's what the S&P 500 follows, and that's what these guys do as well. Number 5, IWMI, NEOS Russell 2000. I know we have a lot of NEOS programs in this. I know we have a lot of funds. I told you these guys do a great job, and this is the highest paying Russell that we have found. Now here's a prime example. This one year to date is down 2.91%, but we're getting a 14.69% total return, paying a 56 cents per share per month, balanced again in the dividend chart. And when you get down to it, we're down to an 11.78 total return. And the return is coming by taking money from the dividends and putting it back into it for the loss of the fund. So that's just a total return from it, but you're still collecting the dividends from 14%. So very strong piece there. And what do these guys do? This is where I show you. This is the funds distribute high monthly income generated by investing in the Russell 2000 and doing covered call option strategies. It's actively managed. They've been doing it on a very structured base, but I wanted to show you also they do a subject of a lower 60-40 tax rate. So what they're doing is trying to help you with the taxes along the way with the NEOS, using return of capital in a lot of different forms. So this thing really uses the Russell 2000, the RUT index option classifications, and they do a great job to create the income. Our final one is QQQI, the NEOS NASDAQ 100 high income ETFs. Again, I'll say it again and I'll repeat it again. The NEOS has done the best overall of all the ETFs, giving us a balanced mix versus high income versus returns versus the mixture of all. So this one has a 3.43% return. Their dividend is 13.89%. I don't know if you can find one higher that's doing the NASDAQ 100 high income. At least we haven't found it. We've done 62 cents per share per month, and you look at their dividend, it's been flat, except, and you always got to dial this in, that's a 54 cent. So that was you'll call it a big drop off, about 10 cents off, but it comes right back. So we take the combination of 13.89% from the dividend, 3.43% from the NAV growth, and gives you a total of 19.32%. Those are our 6 funds, guys, and they've done very, very well, like we said, in our testing. And how does QQQI do it all? Again, heavier in the technology, but a good mixture across the board of the NASDAQ 100. Now let's take a look at what we have done, how well we have done in this fund. We invested $500,000 as part or a full retirement fund. Like I said, we've done this with 3 different partners already that have invested money into it. We've also put it through our computer system to test it and heavily test it through, backing this thing up 11 months back up and then pushing things forward. And we've come up with these kind of numbers. So the results to me have been amazing. So what we did is we took all 6 funds and we broke them down how we have basically suggested the investments go, which is 15% in every fund except the IWMI and the QQQI, and we put those at 20%. We are not trying to put these in the highest possible programs. We're putting it in a well-balanced fund that we can get. So when we come back with those numbers, the year-to-date return is going to be, in dividends alone, is $83,937 or 16.79% dividend return on your investment. Okay, that gives you a monthly income of $6,994. So everyone's that we've talked to so far said, "Oh, I can retire and I can live on those kind of dollars and do anything I want to do and be very happy," basing it on a $500,000 investment. Then you get the growth of 7.69%. Now, again, this is past performances, as I always say. Past performance don't guarantee future results, and we always have to watch both of these. But the dividends have been solid for so long, and the growth shows that year over year that they've had decent numbers. But this gives you a nice mix, 16% plus a 7% growth. Very, very strong numbers. So when we do a summary on this, we're getting you your 16.79 average solid income return with a nice growth of 7.6%. We wisely has limited your risk in retirement, and you really have no real NAV erosion other than one fund that is coming back very, very quickly. You're not worrying about NAV erosion. We're not showing you. We're showing you growth, 7% growth, not talking about, well, we're flat. So this really, guys, classifies into a win-win-win situation. The success is by putting everything together. A mixed balance of funds, a nice dividend return, a nice growth return, and a balanced portfolio. So guys, it's Doug the Retirement Guy. If you like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. Click that notification button. Don't ever be afraid to miss one of our videos. If you're not a member, join the 20,000+ people out there. Join our club, join the community, hit that subscribe button, and best of all, leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. You know better funds than we put out there? Let us know. If you got funds that you like, let us know. We'll evaluate them. So again, guys, we just want to tell you up front, don't take our advice as financial information. Always talk to a financial advisor. We'll see you next time.